Chapter 15. Halfway through geometry, with Miss Garman still dropping hints about a quiz, and with Theo staring at the wall and trying to stay awake, the intercom above the door squawked and startled the class. "Miss Garman, is Theo Boone in class?" It was the shrieking voice of Miss Gloria, the school's longtime secretary. "He is," Miss Garman responded. "Please send him down. He needs to check out." Theo grabbed his things, stuffed them into his backpack, and he was hustling towards the door. Miss Garman said, and as he was hustling towards the door, Miss Garman said, "If we have a quiz, Theo, you can make it up on Monday." "Well, thanks for nothing," Theo thought, but instead he said, "Can't wait." "Have a nice weekend, Theo," she said. "You too." He was in the hall before he took a breath and wondered who was checking him out, and for what reason. Maybe his mother had grown concerned about his red eyes and tired face, and she had decided to take him to the doctor. Probably not. She was not one to overreact, and as a general rule, she did not call the doctor until Theo was half dead. Maybe his father was having second thoughts and had decided to allow Theo to watch the last day of the trial. Probably not. Woods Boone was not as always and was as always in another world. Maybe it was something far worse. Some way, somehow, somebody had snitched on him, and the police were waiting with a search warrant to find the gloves. The secrets would come out, and he, Theo Boone, would find himself in serious trouble. He slowed his pace. Where a hallway turned, he peeked through a large window and caught a glimpse of the front of the school. No police cars, nothing to indicate trouble. He kept walking, even slower. Ike was waiting. He was chatting with Miss Gloria when Theo entered the front office. "This man says he's your uncle," Miss Gloria said with a smile. "I'm afraid so," Theo said. "And you have to go to a funeral over in Weeksburg?" Ike was saying, come on, with his eyes. Theo hesitated for a second, then nodded and said, "I hate funerals." "And you won't be coming back?" she said, reaching for a clipboard. "No, the funeral is at 1:30, Ike said. "It'll kill the day." "So, sign here," she said. Theo signed and they left the office. Ike's car was a Triumph Spitfire, a two-seater, at least 30 years old and far less than perfectly maintained. Like everything else in Ike's life, it was barely hanging together and lucky to be running. They were a block from the school before Theo spoke. "A funeral, huh? I liked it." "It worked." "And where are we going?" You've come to me for help. My advice is that we go to the offices of Boone and Boone, get your parents in a room, and tell them everything." Theo took a deep breath. He couldn't argue. The issues involved were too complicated for him. They surprised Elsa when they barged in the front door. She jumped to her feet and said, "Is something wrong?" "Good morning, Elsa," Ike said. "You look exotic as always." She was wearing an orange sweater, the color of a pumpkin, with matching glasses and lipstick. She ignored Ike, looked at Theo, and said, "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the funeral," Theo said, and began walking towards the library. Could you please round up Woods and Marcella?" Ike said. "We need to have a family meeting in the library." Normally Elsa would have balked at being told what to do, but she knew this was serious. Luckily Miss Boone was in her office, alone, and Mr. Boone was upstairs shoving paper around his desk. They hurried into the library, one after the other, and as soon as Ike closed the door, Miss Boone looked at Theo and said, "Are you okay?" Mr. Boone looked at Theo and said, "What's going on here? Why aren't you in school?" "Relax," Ike said. "Let's all have a seat and discuss matters." They sat down, both parents eyeing Theo as if he had committed a crime. "Now," Ike continued, "let me go first. Then I'll shut up and Theo can talk." On Wednesday, just 2 days ago, Theo had a chat with one of his friends at school. This chat led to another chat, and the and then, of course, In the course of these conversations, Theo came across some information that could have dramatic impact on the trial of Mr. Pete Duffy. In short, there's a witness out there. A witness no one knows about. Not the police, not the prosecution, not the defense, no one except for Theo and his friend. Theo did not know what to do, so he came to me. I'm not sure what to do either, so here we are. Why didn't you tell us? Miss Boone snapped. He's telling you now, Ike snapped back. I was scared, Theo said. Still am, and I promised this friend I would tell no one. What does this witness know? Asked Mr. Boone. Theo looked at Ike, and Ike looked at Theo. Go ahead, Ike said with his eyes. Theo cleared his throat and looked at his mother. Well, this witness was in the woods near the Duffy home at the time of the murder. He saw Mr. Duffy pull up in a golf cart, take off his shoes, and put golf glove in his right hand, go inside the house, and come out a few minutes later. It was it was at the time of the murder. He put his shoes back on, stuck the golf gloves in his bag, and sped away as if nothing happened. How do you know it was at the time of the murder? Miss Boone asked. The pathologist testified that she died around 11:45. The witness was on his lunch break and started at 11:30. And Mr. Duffy, you never saw this witness? Asked Mr. Boone. No, the man was hiding in the woods eating his lunch. He works at the golf course. Do you know his name? Miss Boone asked. No, but I know who he is. Have you talked to him? Asked Mr. Boone. Yes. Where did you talk to him? Asked Miss Boone. Theo felt like a trial witness suffering through a hot cross-examination. He hesitated, and Ike jumped back in. He'd rather not divulge the names of the witness or the friend, and if you ask too many questions, then their identities might become obvious. I promised, Theo said, pleading. In fact, I promised not to say a word to anyone. I don't know what to do. So he came to me first, Ike said, for advice. He didn't want to trouble you, but now there's more to the story. Right, Theo? Both parents glared at him. Theo squirmed in his chair. He tapped his fingers on the long oak table. Go ahead, Theo, Ike said. Let's have it, Mr. Boone said. Theo told him about the gloves. And you have them in your possession? Miss Boone asked when he was finished. Yes. Where are they now? Downstairs, hidden behind a box of old divorce files. Downstairs, here, in our office? Yes, Mom. Here, below us. Mr. Boone whistled and said, Oh, boy. There was a long silence as the four Boones pondered the situation and tried to sort out which laws and which procedures might apply to this unusual set of facts. Though he had said more than he had planned to, Theo was relieved that his burden had now been shared. His parents would know what to do. Ike would offer some advice. Surely the three adults could figure this out. The paper said the trial might be over today, Mrs. Boone said. I just left the courtroom, Ike said. Mr. Duffy is expected to testify this afternoon, and he's the last witness. After closing arguments, the jury will get the case. The gossip at the cafe this morning was that Judge Gantry will hold court tomorrow and wait for the jury, Mr. Boone said. On Saturday? That was the gossip. There was another long gap in the conversation. Mrs. Boone looked at her son and said, Well, Theo, what do you suggest we do at this point? Theo was hoping the adults would know what to do. He squirmed a little, then said, It seems to me that the best thing to do is tell Judge Gantry the whole story. I agree, she said with a smile. Me too, said Ike. It was no surprise, at least to Theo, that his father did not agree. But if we tell Judge Gantry, Mr. Boone said, and he presses Theo for the name or identity of this witness, and Theo refuses to cough up the name, then what? It could be Judge Gantry holds him in contempt. I'm not sure what that means, Theo blurted. It means trouble, his father said. It means he could throw you in jail until you give him what he wants, Ike said with a nasty grin. as if he thought this was humorous. I'd rather not go to jail, Theo said. Don't be ridiculous, Wiz, Miss Boone said. Henry Gantry would not hold Theo in contempt. I'm not so sure about that, Woods fired back. You have a crucial eyewitness whose testimony could potentially change the outcome of the trial. And you have one person who knows about this eyewitness. That person is Theo. And if he refuses to obey the judge, then the judge might get upset. I wouldn't blame him. I really don't want to go to jail, Theo said. You're not going to jail, Miss Spoon said. No judge in his right mind would lock up an innocent 13-year-old. Another long pause. Finally, Mr. Boone said, Theo, what would happen if the identity of this witness were somehow revealed? He's an illegal immigrant, Dad. He's not supposed to be here, and he's scared. If the police knew his name and find him, then he's in jail, and it's all my fault. If they don't catch him, then he'll disappear. Then don't tell us who he is, Miss Spoon said. Thank you, Mom. I wasn't planning on it. Don't tell anyone. Got it. But now you know he's an illegal immigrant, and he works at the golf course. He wouldn't be that hard to find. And how did you get to know this person? Mr. Boone asked. He has a cousin at school, and this cousin came to me for help. Like all the other kids at school, Ike said. Not all, but most of them. Everyone took a deep breath. Then Mr. Boone looked at Theo and smiled. It's the family from the shelter, isn't it? Julio, your friend. The kid who you tutor in math. And his mother, what's her name? Corolla. Theo's mother answered. Corolla, right. I've spoken to her several times. She has 2 smaller kids, and Julio. They're from El Salvador. Julio's cousin is this mysterious eyewitness. Right, Theo? Theo nodded. Yes, Dad, you figured it out. And in an odd way, he was relieved. He didn't actually betray a confidence, and someone had to know the truth. That's the end of chapter 15.